Gemma and Gail. Nearly forgot their names there. That would have been a good start, wouldn't it? It's great to be here at Homegrown 2019. I'm so privileged to get the opportunity to share this morning. And like we've already said, this morning I want to take an opportunity to talk about joining the dots between church and home. How can we as the church help them make the most of the amazing opportunity that parents and carers have at home to nurture faith with all the busyness, with all the chaos that life brings, but how can we equip them to nurture faith? Two things I'm so passionate about is joining the dots between church and home. My home consists of myself and my wife. We've been married 9 years in December. The big 10 years next year. We're so excited. I hear she's taking me to New York. Hopefully that wasn't a surprise, but it was going to be good. And we have two children. We have Macy Love, who is 4 years of age, just started school in September, so that's a whole new world. And we also have Hudson, who is just 4 months old. 4 months old. So we have said goodbye to nights, to goodbye to our sleep. So I've been glad to be here the last couple of days because I've managed to get a little bit of sleep. But myself and my family serve in our local church. We are part of the leadership team of our local church in Newport, South Wales. And I love that we as a family get to serve God together. And with our family, it is one of my greatest joys, our family. But it also comes with its challenges. So this morning I want to talk a little bit about that, a little bit how we can equip parents to really make the most of that opportunity. But before we dive into that session, I want to show a quick video where we've spoken to some families and talked to them just to ask them a couple of questions, how much time they spend each week doing certain things. So let's have a little look at that video and then we'll pick it up after that.
How many hours do we spend asleep?
Oh, so you have to do 9 times 7.
Is 70 days.
No, 70 hours.
70 hours. 84.
70 hours.
63 hours of sleep.
34 hours at school. In the car.
We do spend quite a lot of time in the car, don't we?
0.
0, because we don't have a car.
7 hours in the car.
Doing homework.
Not enough hours.
0. Doing homework.
6 hours.
30 minutes.
Doing homework.
On the toilet.
A week. 10 hours on the toilet.
Let's do 2 hours on the toilet.
Screen time.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
so much.
So weekly total 31 hours and 46 minutes.
Oh, that's you, Mummy.
It's me.
Yeah,
Why?
10 hours a day.
10 hours a week?
Yeah.
20 hours per week.
That's a lot, isn't it?
2
hours at
church.
2 hours at church. Oh, how much time do you spend with parents?
60 hours.
Maybe 50, thereabouts.
60 hours. 75 hours.
We spend 75 hours per week with our parents.
Fantastic. I love that video. That video clip is off one of our latest DVD resources from Care for the Family, Raising Faith. And you can find a little bit more about that on our website. And if you've got any questions, please do get in touch. But what I love about that video, maybe that's something you could do in your context. Maybe ask families to start thinking about how much time they spend doing certain things. And like those families, they may be surprised with the results. But what I love about that end, it talks about that actually parents have the greatest influence on the children. And sometimes just asking that question, it helps parents and carers realize that they do have that time. And I just want to look at this pie chart, which is going to appear right now. And it looks at a typical child at the age of 10 and how many daytime hours they spend at home. And they spend 21,900 daytime hours in the home before the age of 10. It would take the church 421 years for the church to spend the same amount of time with their child. And I don't know about you, but I know that children's workers are the most faithful people I've ever met. But I have not met a children's worker yet who is committed to it for the next 421 years. Come on, you need to get a bit more committed if you ask me. But I say that with a smile on my face because so often we as families, we place such an emphasis on church, and I love the local church. Like I said, I am passionate about the local church. I'm a leader in our church. But the reality is, that is such a short space of time in the wider week. And that pie chart looks at that there are many other things that take up the time. School, sleeping, for many parents, they wish sleeping took up a bit more time of the week for them and their children. But still, at home is the biggest portion of their week. So we want to help parents realize they have this opportunity in their week. Yes, life is busy. Yes, there are so many challenges and so many demands on our time. But the reality is there is still that big part of a child's week which is spent at home. And it's about making the most of those moments. It's about being intentional with that. And in our research that we've done over the last couple of years, and through our conversations with many parents, and I'm sure many of you in this room and many of you watching today would be able to think of families that they are working with. But in that research, we know that the research we have done, that parents do realize that they have this opportunity. That parents realize that it is their responsibility to build faith in their children. But an equal number of parents, more or less, say, whilst they realize they have this opportunity and they realize that it is their responsibility, they think that the church is best placed in building faith in their child. But like on that video and that pie chart demonstrates, that the time in the church is a very small time compared to the wider week. It's about an hour and a half or 2 hours. So parents, on one hand, are saying, I realize it's my responsibility, and I realize that I have an opportunity, but I think the church is best placed. So this morning, we want to explore, how can we as the church and we as leaders help join the dots between church and home? How can we help parents realize that they are not in this alone, that we are encouraging them, we are cheering them on? So we as the church are in a position and we have an opportunity to help them in this journey. Parents realize they have the greatest influence. They have this amazing opportunity at home. And the opportunity at home that parents have does not exist anywhere else. I look at my own family, and there's times with my children that I get to spend with them. Conversations I have which would not happen anywhere else other than at home. So whilst many parents and families realize that the opportunity exists, and the research and the conversations that we have had tends to point to that there is a desire to build faith in their children. There are some real hurdles that families face when it comes to sharing their faith, when it comes to nurturing faith at home. So I just want to take an opportunity now to look at 3 main hurdles that we have found in our conversations. And you, as I'm speaking this morning, you may be thinking of some other hurdles that you face or families face in your context. And that is great. Write them down. Make a note of it. But I'm sure many of us in this room would be able to associate with these hurdles in our own personal lives, never mind just in our families. So the first hurdle is time. Life is busy. Life is busy for both children and parents. Sometimes life can feel so overwhelming with the many demands on our lives. Like I said, my child has just started school, and we are in a whole new world now. I'm so overwhelmed already, and we're only 5 weeks in, so please keep me in your prayers. Because suddenly there's homework. Homework for 4-year-olds, it exists. Suddenly there's learning of numbers, learning of the alphabet, all these things. And I think sometimes, when have we got the time to do this? So life is busy. I don't know if you've looked at the social life of an average 7-year-old, but it puts mine to shame. They've got a birthday party on Saturday, a birthday party on Sunday, homework club on a Tuesday, gardening club on Wednesday, Pilates on a Friday. But it is so busy. And sometimes I look at my life, sometimes just getting out of the house at 9:15 with my little girl Macy wearing the same pair of shoes, not odd shoes, is a win. It really is. We need to celebrate those wins. Church, celebrate your family, celebrate the parents. Get into church. Maybe they're 5 minutes late. Rather than kind of going, celebrate, well done, you got here. Life is busy. And so often as families, we are looking at every need. We're trying to look after our child's physical needs, our emotional needs. And sometimes what we think is, actually, the church is best placed to actually cater for the spiritual needs of my child. So what we do, we kind of go, hey, church, here it is. Now get on with it. And I love that my child gets to go to children's church on a Sunday, and she loves it so, so much. But I still have a responsibility and opportunity at home on Monday, even when I don't feel like it, even when it is tiring, even when life is busy. See, building faith in our child is so much more than just on a Sunday morning. It actually is Monday through to Sunday, and we all get to play a part in that. The next hurdle that families face is confidence. We don't know where to start often. Often parents and families don't do much at home because sometimes they struggle to know where to start. It can feel a little bit overwhelming. And we know that it's not a one-size-fits-all. We know that all children and all families are so, so different. So what works for one family may not work for another. And that's sometimes the reason why we don't do it. Because it's easier on a Sunday when everyone's in a room and we're doing the same thing, rather than think on Monday, what am I supposed to be doing? Like I said, Macy is in school. And every night she gets sent home in a little book bag, things to learn. And we do it. And sometimes she would rather play Barbies, but we sit there for 2 minutes and we do it. But building faith in our children is not just about just sitting down and going, oh, here's a little bit of homework from church on Sunday. No, it's getting to know your child, getting to know it's helping the parents realize that all children engage with God in a different way. So get to know how your child engages to God and build confidence that way. The third one, and I'm sure many of us could associate with this, is inadequacy. We don't feel good enough. Parents are often their worst critics. They often think they are doing the worst job ever. They see their flaws and their struggles. And this is especially true when it comes to faith. They see the questions they have. They see the doubts they have. And they think, how can I pass on faith when I'm struggling with this? We often compare ourselves to every other family. And we think, well, look, they've got it all together, but I haven't. So that's a massive hurdle for families, is inadequacy. When I think of those 3 hurdles, I could associate and tell you a story for each and every one of them where actually I've let them overwhelm me and I've missed that opportunity. And that is real life. And we don't always get it right. And as the church, we are positioned to encourage parents that we don't get it right all the time, but let's give it a go. And I think of time. For me, time is one of the biggest hurdles. Life is busy. It's busy working. It's busy being involved with church. It's busy with 2 children, a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old. Life is busy. And I think of a moment just a few weeks ago. I was out at a prayer meeting, and my wife was at home with our little newborn, and Macy, our 4-year-old, had just gone up to bed. And my wife thought, oh, great, it's quiet, the house is quiet. It's at those moments often where it all changes, where you get lured into a false sense of security. You think, okay, I could watch Bake Off right now, or Strictly. But suddenly, as things was quiet in the house, my little girl started shouting down, going, Mummy, Mummy. And my wife was like, are you okay, Macy? And she was like, yes. And then this went on for about an hour. My wife went up a few times, make sure everything was okay. And then by about 8:30, 9 o'clock, my little girl shouted down again, was like, Mummy. And my wife just kind of responded, because she realized the night was out of the window. She shouted out, Macy, what's wrong? And Macy responded straight away and said, Mummy, I'm scared, I can't go to sleep. So my wife straight away, being a great Christian mum and being part of the church leadership, goes, ask Jesus to help you. And then my little girl straight away, this is how she responded, but Mum, I don't know who Jesus is. And you think, that girl, from the age of 2 days she was in church. She'd been in goodness knows how many leadership meetings, how many prayer meetings, but straight away in that moment, she was like, I don't know who Jesus is. So my wife, being the patient soul she is, I would have probably just shut the door. But she walked up and said, okay, let's talk about Jesus, let's pray. And I say that because actually, in the busyness of the life, in the craziness of our normal day-to-day lives, it sometimes is more hard, is more difficult to take those moments to spend with our children. So how can we help families realize that we can make the most of time? See, our role as the church is we can't run the race for our families. We can't jump over every single hurdle or every single obstacle, but we as the church are positioned to encourage them and to champion them and to build confidence, to go at the start of the race, to go, you can do this, you've got this. We can't run the race for them, but we can be their greatest encouragers and their greatest champions. And when I watch the Olympics, when I watch athletics, I look at the coaches. They can't run the race for their athletes, but they talk about the race. So how can we help parents to realize there are hurdles, but hurdles are there to be overcome? And we have the privilege to be able to help parents do that. See, when I think of time, we can't magically give parents more time in their week. But we can help them realize it's not about adding another event or another thing to do to the massive to-do list, but it's about making the most of the simple things. It's about making the most of the school run or the bedtime story or actually acting out a Bible story in the bath. It's making the most of the things that already exist in our day-to-day lives. Confidence, encouraging parents to help them to realize we can do this. Help parents realize that all children respond in different ways, that all children engage in a different way. Just because that child engages in that way and your child doesn't, it doesn't mean you're failing your child. How can we build confidence? How can we help them realize they can do this? Then inadequacy. Help parents realize that they are positioned to share faith. It's not about being experts. But it's not about being perfect. Isn't that great? It's lifting that pressure off. But it's about modeling faith in a real and authentic way. See, Moses recognized this. In Deuteronomy 6, verse 4, it says, fix these words of mine in your hearts and minds. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. What is that saying to us? Make the things of God evident in our everyday life. It's not meant to be just a part of our life or part of our week, but the very fabric and the very foundation of all we do as families, making the most of the simple, everyday things in our lives. The walking, the sleeping, the watching CBeebies. Making the most of everyday moments, the simple things. I often encourage families and church leaders when I'm talking to them is to rewrite that scripture for themselves, to rewrite that scripture for your family. What does it mean? What does Deuteronomy 6 verse 4 mean to your family? How does weaving God into the everyday parts of our life mean to you? And then pull it on your fridge. Pull it up somewhere. It serves as a reminder that we can include God in all areas of our family and our life and that he wants to be involved there. So in my second part, we're going to dive straight into some practical things that how we as the church can really equip parents and families to make the most of that incredible opportunity that we talked about in the first part of the talk today. But first of all, before we dive into that, I want to talk to you about an analogy that could really challenge us as the church to potentially shift a bit of our focus and our culture that we build in the life of our church. Often as the church, we talk about planting the seed of faith into the children. And we know that parents and carers plant the seeds, and we've talked about that in the first part, that how do we equip them to continue planting that seed? But so often we talk about the church planting that seed. And today I want to take that opportunity to encourage you to keep planting the seed even when you think it's not producing the fruit you think it should. Because I am a product of youth leaders and people involved in the church who faithfully kept sowing that seed, kept praying for me, kept the door open, even when it seems that my life was not reflecting what they was planting. They kept turning up. They kept the door open. They kept speaking life and hope over me. And I am so thankful for those people. Because at the time when I was maybe 15, 16, 17, 18, the choices I was making were certainly not reflecting the time they was giving in to me. But they kept the door open. They kept sowing that seed. So can I encourage you to keep sowing the seed? But also, I want to challenge us that as the church, it's not just about planting that seed. And on a Sunday, keep planting the seed. But it's actually looking at the soil and the pot that the seed is contained in. That seed at home is being sown faithfully by the children, by the parents, and we've talked about how to encourage them and how to equip them. But I want to look at that pot and that soil. See, as the church, our role is to actually maintain the pot and the soil so that it is good soil that helps that seed grow into everything that it was supposed to grow into. We look at the pot to make sure that the pot does not restrict the growth of that seed. And that pot and that soil is home. So how do we help maintain that? How do we help families realize that it's about looking at the pot and the soil so that they can keep sowing that seed? I am no gardener. It might surprise you. I know I may look like Alan Titchmarsh, but I'm not. I'm no gardener, but I understand one thing, that if I don't tend to the soil or make sure that the pot that the seed is planted in, it will not grow into everything that it was supposed to grow into. So we have an amazing opportunity to keep sowing that seed on a Sunday or in messy church or in a kids club. But we also have the opportunity to look at the pot and the soil so it makes it easier and it makes it more effective for the parents as they sow the seed, that seed will grow into everything that it was supposed to grow into. I want now to look at 6 practical ways that we as the church can start today to help join the dots from church to home. First of all, it's recognizing this as a parent's ministry. We have so many ministries in our church. I look in my church and I'm involved in a lot of ministries. I'm involved in a lot of serving. We've got teams who are involved in children's ministry, in youth ministry, in the welcome team, in prayer ministry. But how often do we as the church look at equipping parents and help parents realize that at home it's a ministry? Do we let our congregations know that equipping parents, that sharing faith is an amazing opportunity and it is a ministry? How, do we talk to our churches and our congregations to help them realize that it takes everyone, that this is really an intergenerational ministry? I am so thankful that in our context, that my little girl and little boy have so many people in our church who are family. They are not blood family, but they are part of our family because they are helping us. They're helping myself and my wife to raise our children. They're helping us to share our faith, and it takes everyone. So are we letting our congregations know that this is a ministry? When I think about my life and my family, that the opportunity and the privilege that I have to share faith at home, to disciple my children, to build family is actually my greatest ministry. But how often do I actually make that a priority? Because often I let those hurdles that we talked about earlier get in the way. I let time, I let confidence, I let me feeling inadequate get in the way of actually realizing it's my greatest ministry. Secondly, that we as the church can help remove the sense of expert culture. How can we empower and support parents in realizing it's not about recreating a Sunday at home on a Monday. It's not about recreating messy church or doing the best arts and craft, and those things are great. But it's about taking time and being intentional. The great thing is, it's not about being perfect. We can take that pressure off, but it's about living an authentic, real faith. But so often, parents see the work that you incredible children's and family workers do, and they think they have to recreate that. But it's our opportunity to say, it's not about recreating that. It's about getting to know what works in your context, in your family. So let's remove that expert culture. Thirdly, dispelling the guilt. You may have families in your context who may be doing this every single day. They may be doing these most incredible family Bible studies. They might be the family who on a Sunday are so engaged. But there may be other families who actually have never thought about the importance or the role that they have in sharing their faith at home. And you will probably have many families in the middle who are actually doing more than they think they are. But sometimes because they don't see the importance, or it's not talked about in our churches and it's not culture, they think, I'm just doing life. But if we started talking about this today with our families, straight away, parents, first of all, would feel guilty. Because often they think, I should be doing more, I should be doing something. But the great news is, and the great news today is, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you've never even thought about this. Today is a great day to start. So it's dispelling that guilt. It's removing that guilt. Because we as parents are good at feeling guilty. We're good at seeing everyone else and thinking, I should be doing more. But it's about dispelling that guilt. And we have that opportunity as the church to do that. Number 4, help parents to take the lead. It's not just about taking a Sunday school lesson and then giving them homework and a handout and say, get on with this. It's helping parents be involved in every area. It's talking to parents. It's discussing the things that you're talking about on a Sunday or in messy church and actually getting their views and getting their thoughts of what are you talking to your children about? And there might be something that they're doing and you think, that's great. Do you mind if we do that on a Sunday as well? It's about helping parents to take that lead. It's about talking to parents and giving them that confidence that it's not about recreating like we've already said. It's not about doing a 1-hour Bible study before nursery, but it's about getting to know what works in your context. And that may be something that you as a parent are passionate about. So talking to your parents and asking them, what do you enjoy doing? Because I can guarantee, and looking at that scripture in Deuteronomy 6:4 that we read, that we can bring the things of God into everything. I think when I get home, and like we said, that life is busy, and sometimes I open the door, and I'll open the door tomorrow evening, and I'll walk in, and the first thing that my little girl will want to do is play Barbies with me. Is that the first thing that I want to do? Probably not. It's to play Lego, of course. But you walk in through that door, and I have an opportunity to spend time with her. I haven't seen her for a couple of days, so I get to ask her how school has been, what things she's been doing, and that's an opportunity to also pray together, to also talk about God. So it's talking about to parents going, you might enjoy making things, so why not make things with your child? You may enjoy baking, then bake with your child and actually talk about the things of God. So it's about helping parents to take the lead, not just handing them something and saying, get on with this, because they've got their hands full with school with that. But it's about saying, what works in your context? What works with your children? And you can do this. Number 5, encourage parents to see the simple things they can do in everyday life. Help parents realize that it's simply by modeling, children learn so much. They watch all the time. And it's helped parents realize that that's an opportunity to share faith. And it's about taking the pressure off, saying, you don't have to be perfect in everything you do. I could fill up the next 3 hours with many stories of times where I've failed or where I haven't hit the mark. But it's about learning from those times and going, today is a good day to start. I think about the last few months is I do our weekly shop on a Monday and we go to Aldi's. I'm not being sponsored by Aldi's, but if you're watching Mr. Aldi, feel free to send me some vouchers. But we were doing our weekly shop in Aldi's, and my little girl, Macy, would come with me. And she would always sit in the trolley. And one thing you need to know about Macy is she's very loud. She likes for people to hear her. So we're in the shop just doing our weekly shop. And every single week, just instinctively, there's this guy who hangs around outside Aldi's who is homeless. And I just instinctively just go, hey, mate, anything I can help you with, anything I can get you. And I just do it, and I'm sure many of us do similar things. And just walk into the shop, and always he says no, because he's already got a bag full of cakes and a bag full of bread. But I noticed that after a few weeks, and again, not really thinking about this, just doing everyday life, my little girl would stand up in the trolley and shout at this guy, go, hey, mate, anything I can get you? I never sat her down and said, in order to be kind, this is how we do this. No, she watched Dad and just was like, well, if Dad does it, this is how I do it. And it's about actually, she will learn so much about the character and nature of God by just watching at home, by just seeing how I treat her mum, seeing how I live life, see how I treat that car driver who cuts me up on the roundabout. That is a big test of my character. But she will learn so much. And the funny thing with that story is that a couple of weeks after the first time I noticed that, we were going to Morrison's and just to get milk. And we were just picking up milk, and again, she's in the trolley, and again, she's very loud. We walk into Morrison's, and she jumps up and shouts at this man outside Morrison's, goes, hey, mate, can I get you some food? The problem was, he was not homeless, he was just waiting for his wife to pick him up. So I then had to have the conversation that not everyone hanging around supermarkets needs your food, but it's very kind, Macy. But the reason why I say that is that is an opportunity. That is everyday life, that we get to speak about the things of God, that our children get to learn so much. It's not about adding another thing or another event or overcomplicating things, but it's about being intentional and realizing that home is a great place to start. How can the families in your church and in your context make the most of bringing faith and making faith come alive at home? Maybe it's at breakfast. Maybe it's on the school run. Maybe it's at bath time. Maybe it's at bedtime. Maybe it's when you're making tea. Maybe when you're playing FIFA. When I play FIFA at home, it seems like my little girl always wants to talk to me at that moment. Does she not know that's Dad's time? But it's time. She wants to spend time. How can we make faith come alive? And my little girl is not just content with me reading a Bible story to her at bed. She wants to act it out. So actually, it's saying to families that that's okay. Be creative. Help your children engage in the way they learn and in the way they want to grow. Sometimes mum's not too happy when we're trying to act out the parting of the Red Sea in the bath or walking on water. But we try, and we get to learn together. And then finally, how can we as the church help start conversations between parents? As we know that parenting and family can sometimes be the most lonely life. Sometimes can be quite isolated, especially for new parents. Because often with the challenges, and we've talked about how much a joy it is to have family, but there is also very real challenges. And so often that as parents, we often think that this challenge that is going on in our life, in our family, we are the only ones going through it. We are the only ones that our child does not want to go to church on Sunday morning. So we think we're a failure. We think all these things, and we get overwhelmed by that. But it's funny when you start talking to other families and talking to other parents, you realize you're not doing as bad a job as you think you are. You realize that the same challenges that you are going through, that other families are. So how can we as the church help start conversations between families and between parents? Have we ever got parents in the room to actually just encourage each other, to share life, to share the challenges, share the joys, to pray together? Trust me, when you do that, it's so rewarding to see, because suddenly parents encourage each other. They realize that they all have these opportunities and that actually they learn from each other. And there's some great resources out there that can help you in getting families and parents together to start the conversation. And you can check out the Parenting for Faith website, and please check out the Kitchen Table Project website, because we've got resources on there to help you as the church to help parents in this ministry. So how can we start conversations between parents? How can we help them realize that this is a journey, that it's not, bam, there it is, and suddenly this is all done. Actually, we grow into this, that this is a journey. And then in wrapping up, in summary, what have we talked about over the last 30 minutes? We've talked about that parents are best positioned to share faith, that they have this great opportunity, that they have this influence, but often they think the church is best place. So they realize they have the opportunity, they have the desire to share faith, but they don't know where to start. Parents have the greatest influence, but they do have hurdles to overcome. But this is the great news for us as the church. We as the church are positioned to help build parents' confidence, to help them run their race, to help them overcome their hurdles, because they are hurdles, and hurdles are meant to be overcome. But here's the thing. We can only help parents and families to overcome hurdles when we've identified what those hurdles are. So it's sitting down with our families and going, what are the hurdles? And then how can we as the church help build your confidence and help you in running your race and jumping over those hurdles? And the great news is there are so many great ways that we as the church can help empower parents in this great ministry. That there are so many ways to build confidence, so many ways to say you can do this. And we as the church have the amazing privilege and the unique opportunity to help families do this. So before I hand back to Gail and Gemma to facilitate the rest of the morning, why not take a moment this morning and throughout the day and throughout the week to think of one individual family or group of families that you could implement some of these things in? To think of one thing that you could do in a family's life when it comes to helping them to share faith at home. Thank you.